Okay, we're taking a left turn today and talking about cars, because cars can be expensive, and the more expensive they are, the more special. Well, that's the intention anyways, but there's always a point of diminishing returns. So here's top 5 cars that are really expensive but don't feel that special. Look, no doubt the car is actually very special, and it's a technological marvel to ensure it does one better than the Mclaren P1, the car it's replacing. However, at the expected $2.1 million price, it's rumored to be, before options. It's a confusing ask considering it looks more like a beefed up Mclaren GTS than, well, compared to something more special, and even when compared to the P1 for example. However, on the other hand, the insanely powerful powertrain is something to desire considering it's the most powerful V8 hybrid you can get, excluding the Koenigsegg's. But it's still not very far off what the Ferrari SF90 Stradale XX offers, and yet because the Ferrari is all-wheel drive, it's faster accelerating in the short runs, and likely much faster in the slow corners. Except for the fact that it's a bit heavier, but you know what, we can talk about it later. Also, even though the Ferrari is a limited run, albeit a larger amount, it's still $1.1 million cheaper than the W1. So that leaves the aero and the handling, and that definitely isn't worth $1.1 million over the XX Ferrari. However, that's about to change if McLaren clinches this year's 2024 F1 Constructors' Championship. If they manage to do this, which currently looks likely, that will add value and the extra ingredients needed to experience the McLaren W1 as a whole. In simple words, the McLaren W1 itself isn't worth $2.1 million. But if you consider the McLaren W1 the road-going testament to McLaren's 2024 World Constructors' Championship after years of struggle, then suddenly the $2.1 million is a pretty small amount. Now, I did praise this car just about a minute ago, but honestly, the XX is supposed to be a special program for hyper-track focused cars or next level technologies that Ferrari is supposed to come up with. So considering that, the Stradale XX isn't exactly that hyper-track focused car that you expect from the XX skunkworks. There's also the whole question of what does that mean for the XX program. Will these Stradales be allowed to run the track days with the Ferrari FXXK, for example, and not to mention the Spider? Obviously, the owners would know what they can and they cannot do, considering all the XX Stradale and the Spider models have been sold for already. But then, if there is restrictions, why is this an XX in the first place? They could have just named it the Competizione like how they did with the 812 or some other name basically. What's even funnier is they didn't even take advantage of the XX name and priced both cars reasonably well. So this car is basically a really expensive car that's not as special as the XX name. Thus, it's cheaper than what usual XX named cars are, and so that means the XX is now valued less, so making the car less special. Confused? Well, then that answers that. To get as fast as the Plaid S, Model S, Porsche did go very extreme with this car, including removing the back seats and adding spoilers and canards if you get the Weissach package. I think I pronounced that right. But this car, after options, is $250k US, which is way more than the $80k or $90k you pay for the Tesla Model S Plaid. You do get more performance in terms of cornering and brakes, along with a more sophisticated thermal management system. So consistent performance, and obviously the interior is classes ahead of the Model S. But at $250,000 US, you're looking at the Bentley Continental GT and the Flying Spur, a Porsche 911 GT3 RS, Aston Martin DB12, and the DBX. And among these, the Taycan doesn't seem that special, considering it's already been panned for looking cheaper than its brother, the RS e-tron GT Quattro. That's a complicated name. However, Audi is also a sibling to another car with a similar issue. Audi has a knack for doing something that pisses off its siblings, in that they tend to build better looking cars that feel more special than their expensive siblings for some reason. Now, the Urus SE is no different, with a tamer design than the previous gen, supposed previous gen. But still, it doesn't look anywhere near as good as the Q8 or the RS Q8. Now, the SE does come with a plug-in hybrid powertrain, and I am heavily biased towards plug-in hybrids. It's my favorite kind of powertrains, so I will always give it bonus points for that. However, I'm not sure if the next RS Q8 will be plug-in hybrid as well, so I would like to wait a bit and find out more about that before giving the Urus SE a verdict. But apart from the Lamborghini name, the Urus SE isn't exactly, well, that special and doesn't look anywhere near as good as the RS Q8, so yeah. Now the Crown Platinum is a bit better because it's a really cool car, and especially considering the 350 horsepower 2.4-liter turbo engine with Toyota's parallel hybrid system, it's not bad. It's a little bit of pizzazz, you could say, so like a sleeper build. But it's not exactly exciting per se, so more luxury. And I mean, it's unique, let's go with that. However, everything below the Platinum is a dud. They are far too expensive for what it offers, and in fact, Toyota themselves sell something better, the 2025 Toyota Crown Signia, which is cheaper, but looks a bit more special and nicer than the Crown itself. Again, except the 340 horsepower Platinum. Now the top 5 mentioned here is obviously a perspective, so it could change depending upon whether you have a lot of money, little money, and your tastes and so on and so forth. But that's personal preferences, but these are my top 5 anyways. I guess what's yours, you can just mention that down below. And yeah.